And let's say you just need to let loose once in a while. Go to a show or a concert and actually have a fun night. Well, if you've had any disposable income and tried to buy concert tickets lately, you might have had a surprising experience. You pull up the seating chart, expecting that familiar scramble for seats, and instead you're staring at row after row of availability. A whole map that looks calm, too calm. And in the ticketing world, that calm shows up as one color, blue. People in the music business have started calling this blue dot fever. The idea is simple. Those blue dots are unsold seats, and there are more of them than anyone expected. What's scary isn't just that a few shows are underperforming. It's that tours are getting scaled back and canceled before they ever get started. And that raises a bigger question. What happens to live music if artists can't afford to tour and fans can't afford to go? Everyone says they want live music to thrive, but wanting it and being able to sustain it are two very different things. To understand how we got here, we have to rewind a little bit to the years right after the pandemic. Venues reopened, and it felt like the whole world had been holding its breath. People were desperate to get out, to feel something with a crowd, to hear that first chord hit in a room full of strangers who all loved the same band. That spending surge even got a nickname, Funflation. Concert going jumped dramatically compared to pre-pandemic levels, and the entire live event economy ramped up to match it. Promoters booked bigger rooms, production became more ambitious. The assumption was that demand would keep climbing, or at least stay high enough to justify the scale. Then 2026 shows up, and the math stops working. Because the problem isn't that people suddenly hate concerts, it's that the financial reality for everyday fans changed. Costs rose across the board, and non-essential spending got harder to justify. When budgets tighten, a night out that includes tickets, transportation, maybe parking, maybe a babysitter, and definitely overpriced drinks starts to slide down the priority list. And this isn't limited to one genre either. It's not just rock bands trying to sell out arenas. We've seen pop artists make major adjustments too. Stadium plans get reduced, entire tours get pulled, even established names, artists that a few years ago would have felt like safe bets, are discovering that the crowd isn't automatically there at any price. And that phrase matters, at any price. Ticket prices kept rising even as the audience became more cautious. Stadium tickets that were already expensive somehow got more expensive year after year. It's easy to assume that higher ticket prices happen because artists are simply grabbing for more money, but the truth is messier. The face value of tickets is typically set by the artist team based on what they think the tour costs and what margin they need. Ticketing companies handle the processing and add fees, but they usually aren't the ones picking the base price. So when you see a stadium ticket pushing $200 or more, that's often an attempt to make a tour viable, not just a flex. The catch is that what's viable for the tour budget can be completely unrealistic for the average fan, especially when the economy shifts. And here's the part that a lot of listeners don't see. Even packed shows can fail financially. Touring is brutally expensive. A great example came from an indie band, Los Campesinos, who publicly broke down the finances of a North American run they did a couple years back. They played 11 shows and sold out almost all of them. From the outside, that sounds like a clear win. But when they added it up, the show fees brought in just under what the tour cost them. After expenses, hotels, flights, visas, crew pay, transportation, wear and tear on gear, daily costs, commissions, they were actually in the red on the ticket income. They made money in the end largely because they sold a lot of merchandise. That's the kind of detail that changes how you hear the phrase sold out. Sometimes it just means you lost less than you would have otherwise. Sometimes it just means you lost less than you would have otherwise. And another key point, many of those costs hit before the first ticket is even scanned. Bands often have to front huge amounts of money just to start rolling. If anything goes wrong, someone gets sick, a show is canceled, a van breaks down, gear goes missing, you don't just lose a little, you can lose the whole run. Scale that up to artists with massive productions and you can see why the stakes get extreme. Big tours can involve fleets of trucks, complex staging, large crews, and enormous nightly operating costs. When you're carrying that kind of overhead, a seating chart full of blue dots isn't just disappointing, it can erase the margin entirely. And blue dot fever doesn't exist in a vacuum. Live entertainment competes with live entertainment. Fans only have so much money and so much time. In 2026, there's also the FIFA World Cup landing in North America with a huge number of matches. That's a lot of events pulling attention, travel, hotel bookings, and disposable income in the same season. Interestingly, even the World Cup has seen reports of slower sales in some places because the same forces apply. Flights cost money, hotels cost money, and budgets aren't infinite. The pressure is affecting every corner of ticketed entertainment, and each sector unintentionally makes the other's job harder. Now there's a twist in the data. The very biggest artists are still doing well. At the top of the touring world, revenue and ticket sales can still grow because megastars are basically their own category. Fans plan around them. They save for them. They treat those shows like major life events. But the middle tier, the artists who can headline amphitheaters, arenas, and large theaters, those are the ones getting squeezed. For years, that level looked stable. Not superstar money, but a solid career. And that's exactly where Blue Dot Fever seems most dangerous, because it hits the part of the ecosystem that supports touring musicians, crews, and the future pipeline of artists. And if you're an up-and-coming act, the question becomes even harsher. Can you even afford to tour at all? The upside is that making and releasing music hasn't become impossible. Artists can record independently, and fans can still discover songs and build communities online. But live performance is where careers often grow, and it's also where a lot of musicians actually try to make their income work out. If touring collapses as a realistic option, the entire shape of the industry changes. So what's the cure? There isn't a magic fix, and hope doesn't balance a budget. The most realistic answer is also the least glamorous. Smaller venues, more realistic pricing, and tours designed for the world we're in now, not the world we were in during the post-pandemic boom. Of course, it's not always a simple choice. Contracts, routing, expectations, and the sheer logistics of changing venue sizes can get complicated fast. But the larger lesson is pretty clear. The industry scaled up based on a surge that couldn't last forever, and now it's dealing with the hangover. Planning has to account for how quickly conditions can turn. Because until something adjusts, prices, venue sizes, touring models, or all of the above, those blue dots will keep showing up. And for too many artists, a map full of empty seats doesn't just look bad. It can mean the tour never happens at all.